Hello, everyone. This is Toby the Galactic Intuitive. How are you guys doing? Welcome back to our daily messages. Thank you so much for being here. Do we need another cool name for our daily messages or daily messages? Will that suffice? That's kind of boring. Maybe we need another name. We'll have to think on that, okay? Today, I have noticed that I feel as if, and I'm mentioning this because as you probably know by now, these things I feel called to share. It's about my life and my experience. It's because somebody out there, you guys might now be experiencing it and wondering what the heck's going on, or maybe we'll be experiencing it over the next few days. So I feel as if I'm kind of walking around in a bit of a bubble. It feels very still, very quiet inside this bubble. If that feels connected to our message yesterday of let it be, it's similar to like a bubble of protection, but this is not one that I have created for myself. And so it, as I was sitting here about to press record and pondering this, and then as I attempted to start this video a couple of times, here we are again. I'm gonna make it this time. It was interesting because I started getting itchy, like my arms and around my neck. And in chatting with my guides, they were using the analogy of how it feels. And now all of a sudden I want to yawn, which is strange. So you may be kind of tired. I'm tired today, but I was up again with my dog last night. So that's why. Anyway, the itchiness. You know how it feels when you get a sunburn, and like the day before it starts peeling, you start feeling really itchy. It's really itchy, and you try not to scratch it because you don't want it to peel, but then it peels anyway. So what they were explaining to me was, and this has to do with the bubble too, so again, bear with me. I got to go full circle here. It has to do with we talked about, I'm pretty sure, we talked about things that we were transmuting internally, and not only emotionally, but within our physical cells. So when we do that, the itchiness or the discomfort we might be feeling may be associated with that purging or releasing that's going on a cellular level. And so that's also the reason for the bubble, which is funny that I laughed at myself and said it's like a bubble of aloe vera. Aloe vera gel to help soothe that new skin once it's peeled off, like after you get a sunburn. So, but the bubble is also, so it is a bit of a protective bubble. It is to, but it feels more so that instead of being protective against something, it is protecting our experience of this moment. Yeah, that's it. Because that stillness that we've talked about is so necessary. And I'm sure we talked about this too, of getting to know the new or remembered self. I kind of now prefer to say the remembered self rather than the new self. So that bubble feels like it is giving you some needed and necessary preparatory space for you to be still with your remembered self, and to notice if you're avoiding being still, for one thing. If you are noticing yourself looking to distractions or avoidance of being still and just being with oneself, then that's something important to look at, because you're avoiding getting to know the remembered you. And not to judge that, because I feel like it's a normal reaction too, because it's linked to how we feel about uncertainty, right? How we feel about this remembered self. And so taking cues on where you are with that process by how you are responding to the stillness of this bubble. So that's our first message. I mentioned yesterday, I'm pretty sure, was it yesterday or the day before, we talked about the rain? It must have been the day before, because we had sun yesterday. Yeah, because we talked about the gratitude of balance. So that did get me thinking, though, about, and I was getting some messages from my guides about well, I just started to say weather, but then I heard weather anomalies. They're not really okay, I'm being corrected. Okay, weather anomalies. That sounds very extreme, though. I'm not feeling it as that extreme. But let's say okay, we're going to stick with weather anomalies, because I'm going to continue to hear it until I say it. So they're being very persistent. Well, they're saying it's important for us to acknowledge that they are anomalous from what, is that a word? From what it is, but I'm not sure I'm using this correctly. From what we usually experience, so that we are honoring and recognizing the process that Mother Earth is going through, and not diminishing it or suppressing it by being unwilling to speak it honestly. Okay. Y'all just witnessed me getting called out by my guides right here on camera. It happens a lot. Okay, so yes, that does make sense. Thank you. Thank you. That does make sense. Oh my goodness. I get a lot of tough love from my guides. Anyway, you'll need to know about that. So anyway, getting back on topic. I was feeling into that and hearing some things from them, and where I'm going with that is I'm going to do like an oracle tarot reading on not just the elements. I've got my elemental oracle right here, so I'll be using that. I actually pulled a couple cards from it already. We'll get to those. But my feeling around it, well, actually, let's because it kind of is reflected in the cards. My feeling about this reading is not to, because we got the message about co-creating New Earth with the co-creation of New Earth, right? And working with Mother Earth in that co-creation. That was actually one of the very first messages. It was a channeled message. It wasn't me talking to the camera, but it was a channeled message from my guides. And that kicked off our Lionsgate portal messages. It was either the first or the second one. So if you haven't seen that, go back and look at it, because that is going to be applicable to what we're talking about this weekend. I'm not sure when I'm going to do this reading. It won't be me here talking to you. It'll be like an oracle tarot reading. It'll be sometime this weekend. I'm not sure when. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. It just depends on how my days go. Anyway, in looking at that, it feels like what we're going to be looking at, because we understand, or we have at least a surface, we have some understanding of what's going on with the changes, right? The purifying with the rain, the transmutation with the heat, the purging and the releasing with the volcanic activity, the restructuring with the tectonic plates moving with the earthquakes. So we have an understanding of that. But what I'm feeling into is that we could look at, and this goes back to that co-creation message. We could look more deeply at, because we've talked about the parallels between our human evolution and the evolution of Mother Earth going into New Earth. So what we're going to look at is the corresponding human emotional states and or energetic changes, and how those are impacting, influencing, or can assist with different aspects of Mother Earth's evolution. So we'll look at the different elements. We'll look at, I don't know if we're going to look at how many we will look at, but at least water, fire, and earth for sure. We should probably go ahead and look at air because we have already a hurricane forming. And there has been a lot of wind this year already. So we'll look at the four main elements and then how that corresponds to what the corresponding human, really getting a very specific message of what the corresponding human emotion is to that. Now we kind of already have a general understanding of the emotional states that correspond with each of those elements, but there's something deeper that my guides want me to look at and want us to know. So I will do that this weekend. For right now though, the cards that came through were, the first one that came through was ice, which is card, oh, there goes the light. There's card 33, which is also purity. But look at how she's underneath the ice. And the purity is actually represented up here with the white horse. When she's down here, she's kind of stuck amongst these icicles, and she feels kind of caged. And then what came out next was card number 32, surprisingly, because I shuffled a bunch of times. And this is, what does that say? Richness. It's marine life. But look at the vibrancy and vitality in that card with the richness of the marine life. And again, then we have, this feels like a bit of a polarity type aspect between, I'm turning them so that you don't have the glare, between these two. They're both underwater, right? She's underneath this frozen surface, and at least that's the way it, oop, don't drop it. That's the way it feels to me. Yeah, and we kind of have like little bubbles on here that could signify air. Anyway, or it could be the snowflake. Anyway, this is the way this is the way I'm intuitively reading it. So there's the vitality and the vibrancy here, and then there's the restriction here. And what came out next, which is card number 36, we got a lot of threes, is electricity and wildness. So what's missing between the two here is wildness, is the way I'm reading this. And this feels like it is very much associated with the release that we've talked about, and what we're talking about even with being in that bubble, and the cellular, the transmutation that's going on even at the cellular level. My hair is driving me nuts today, you guys. It drives me nuts every day. But allowing oneself, look, and I'm seeing the electricity coming out of her, not coming into her. And her just releasing her wildness and allowing herself to exist in that state of freedom and interestingly, the other word that's coming through is balance. Because we have, there is also, see, can you, I'm going to put it up closer. See that, the spiral behind her that almost looks like the Wheel of Fortune too. Looks like a clock. But it almost looks like the clock is unwinding. See how here's the main face of the clock, and then it spirals out behind her. So she's moving beyond time with this. And it's the expression of her wildness, and this goes back to the remembrance of who we are. The expression of that is what allows us to move beyond the restrictions that we have, because this really feels like a kind of false narrative, like the false, again, I'm intuitively reading it this way under these circumstances, for this situation and for this theme, a false definition of purity, one that keeps people suppressed and hidden and feeling like they have to, it's that walking on eggshells kind of feeling, right? Of you have to take very careful moves, otherwise you're going to be stabbed or poked. We'll say poked. That's a better way to say that, Toby. Right? There are repercussions for not moving carefully in this environment. But here, look at how free that is. How they're all thriving. And they're moving together. There's a lot of unity in that card too, because I can't tell if they're moving up. They're not all moving in the same direction. They're not. But I don't think that the unity is actually in the ability to operate in their sovereignty and simultaneously as a community, as that serves as one living organism, because they're all interconnected. So we are going to look at we're going to look at that this weekend a little bit further and go into that. But it does feel like it is associated with releasing those labels that have kept us in the, well, and what I'm hearing actually is that we as individuals have released so much of that. And that's why Mother Earth is able to be going through her process now, because we've done some of our work. Now she's going through her work. And what we'll look at then is how we can support her. And if there are any other energies or emotions that are causing or are are unnecessarily intensifying the process for her. All right. I think that's enough for tonight. Yeah. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you so much. And what are we going to name our messages? What do you think? What do you think? I don't know. For now, we'll call them daily messages. I'm sure we'll come up with something else. The bubble, yeah, allow yourself to let it be. Allow yourself to be still. Oh, something else I wanted to mention. We do have a new moon in Virgo coming up on August 22nd. And then there's another one. The one on the 22nd is at 0 degrees of Virgo. Then there's a second new moon in Virgo, which is an eclipse on September 21st. And that one will be at 29 degrees of Virgo. So the very end of Virgo. So, Virgo season is really potent, really, really potent. I feel like as far as when the guides were talking about the preparatory type energy of this bubble experience, is that it is in preparation for a particular segment of space-time, not in preparation towards a specific outcome, but for this next step in the process. Okay, and now that's it. All right, I love you guys. Thank you so much for everything, for being here, for watching, for commenting, for liking, for subscribing, for sharing, all the things. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you.